The wind howls across the rocky escarpment of Mount Randa. It is the year 1274, and the island of Mallorca sits like a jewel in the Mediterranean, a place where the calls to prayer from minarets mingle with the chiming of church bells. High above the olive groves and the noise of the villages, a solitary figure kneels in the dust. This is Ramon Llull. He is not a man born to the cloth. He was once a troubadour, a courtier known for his poetry and his pursuit of earthly pleasures. But here, amidst the wild thyme and the limestone crags, the former sinner is about to receive a vision that will echo through 7 centuries of history. He looks up at the lentisk bushes, and suddenly the world dissolves. He does not see angels or demons. He sees a structure. He sees the entire universe, not as a chaotic tapestry of conflicting dogmas, but as a perfect, crystalline system of connections. In this moment of illumination, Llull perceives the attributes of the divine: goodness, greatness, eternity, power, wisdom, not as abstract theological concepts, but as fundamental elements that can be combined. It is a moment of radical cognitive shift. He realizes that if God is the ultimate reality, then the structure of the universe must reflect the structure of God's own nature. And if that is true, then truth itself is not something to be argued over with rhetoric or enforced by the sword. It is something that can be calculated. This vision on Mount Randa is the spark of a dangerous and brilliant idea that faith can be proven through pure logic. To understand the magnitude of this revelation, we must step back into the world Llull inhabited. 13th century Spain was a crucible of civilizations. Christians, Muslims, and Jews lived in a tension that oscillated between fruitful coexistence and violent crusade. The standard method of conversion in Llull's time was often brutal and coercive, relying on military might or the rigid authority of Scripture. But Llull saw the futility in this. How could you convince a learned Muslim scholar of the Trinity by quoting a Bible he did not accept as the final authority? You needed a common ground. You needed a language that transcended Scripture, a language of absolute necessity. Llull's ambition became nothing short of staggering. He resolved to create a universal science, a system of logic so watertight, so undeniable, that anyone who engaged with it, regardless of their culture or creed, would be compelled by the sheer force of reason to accept the Christian truth. He wanted to stop fighting with steel and start fighting with algorithms. This was not merely a religious mission, it was the birth of a new kind of intellectual warfare. He descended from that mountain not just with a prayer in his heart, but with a blueprint in his mind. He had seen the code of the cosmos, and he was determined to build a machine that could read it. It was a quest that would consume the rest of his life, leading him to write hundreds of books and travel the known world, all driven by the singular conviction that logic was the path to the divine. If the vision on the mountain was the software, the Ars Magna, or the Great Art, was the hardware. Imagine opening a leather-bound manuscript from the late Middle Ages. You expect to see illuminated saints, dense columns of Latin text, perhaps a map of the Holy Land. Instead, you find something that looks remarkably like a navigational instrument. On the parchment, Llull has drawn circles within circles. These are not static illustrations, they are moving parts. These are volvels, rotating paper wheels pinned in the center, allowing them to spin independently of one another. This was the first attempt in human history to mechanize the process of reasoning. The outer circle might contain 9 letters from B to K, each representing a divine dignity or absolute principle: B for goodness, C for greatness, D for eternity, and so on. The inner circles would represent relations such as concordance or difference, or questions like whether, what, and why. By manually rotating the wheels, a user could align these concepts to generate combinations. You might align wisdom with power to contemplate the nature of an omnipotent God. You might spin it again to combine justice with eternity. The machine could generate thousands of complex theological propositions, churning out statements like, "Greatness is concordant with goodness." This was computational theology. Llull was proposing something revolutionary, that human thought is essentially combinatory. He believed that there are a finite number of fundamental truths, and by exhausting every possible combination of these truths, one could map the entire scope of reality. He wasn't just writing a book to be read, he was building a logic engine to be operated. In his mind, this device acted as a filter. If a generated proposition was false or contradictory, the system would reveal it. If it was true, it would stand firm. The Ars Magna was intended to function as a metaphysical calculator, stripping away human bias and error to reveal the naked structure of the truth. For Llull, this was the ultimate apologetic tool. He imagined sitting down with a philosopher from the Islamic Golden Age or a Jewish Kabbalist, placing the wheels between them and saying, "Let us not argue, let us calculate." He believed the machine would demonstrate the necessity of the Trinity or the Incarnation as inevitably as a mathematician proves a geometric theorem. It was a breathtakingly modern concept wrapped in medieval mysticism. He was trying to externalize the mind, to take the process of thinking out of the biological brain and deposit it into a physical system. While his contemporaries were building cathedrals of stone to reach the heavens, Ramon Llull was building a cathedral of logic. He believed that if he could just get the inputs right, if he could just define the variables of God clearly enough, the machine would solve the equation of existence. The wheels of Ramon Llull's Ars Magna eventually stopped spinning in the hands of his immediate disciples, and for a time, his great art was dismissed by many as the eccentricity of a fanatic. But ideas, like the divine attributes he studied, have an eternal quality. They lie dormant in dust-covered libraries until the right mind uncovers them. Centuries later, in the age of the Enlightenment, a young German mathematician and philosopher named Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz found himself captivated by Llull's work. Leibniz was searching for his own universal language, a characteristica universalis that would allow all human disputes to be resolved through calculation. Leibniz looked at Llull's combinatory circles and saw a flaw, but also a magnificent potential. He criticized Llull's alphabet of attributes as being too arbitrary. Why stop at 9? Why those specific words? But he adored the method. He realized that if you could break down all human thought into its simplest, indivisible concepts, prime numbers of the mind, and assign them symbols, you could indeed mechanize reason. Leibniz took Llull's great art and stripped away the theology, replacing the divine attributes with mathematical values. In his dissertation, De Arte Combinatoria, he explicitly referenced Llull, standing on the mystic's shoulders to reach for a new kind of mathematics. This line of inquiry led Leibniz directly to the development of binary arithmetic, the system of ones and zeros that forms the bedrock of every digital computer in existence today. The genealogy is stark and undeniable. The paper wheels of the 13th century became the punch cards of the 19th, which became the silicon chips of the 20th. Ramon Llull wanted to build a machine to prove the existence of God. He wanted to mechanize the conversion of souls. Instead, he accidentally wrote the source code for the modern world. We have fulfilled his dream of a thinking machine, but we have inverted his purpose. Llull believed that the more we calculated, the closer we would get to the divine. He thought that logic was the mirror of God. Today, our algorithms dictate everything from the stocks we trade to the videos we watch, yet they operate in a universe largely scrubbed of the spiritual meaning Llull sought. We are left with a profound irony. The father of the algorithm was not a secular engineer, but a mystic on a mountaintop. The roots of artificial intelligence are tangled deep in the soil of medieval theology. As we stare into the black mirrors of our devices, waiting for the next answer from our own versions of the Ars Magna, we are participating in a ritual that began 700 years ago. We have kept the art, but we have lost the Magna, the great spiritual end that gave the system its soul. We have built the ultimate logical engine just as Lowell dreamed, but we are still waiting for it to reveal the truth.